If you're black, then both political parties reserve the right to blame and attack you when they lose. Whenever Republicans lose elections, the go-to position is we gotta stop black people from voting, even if there were only 5 black people in the voter district, even if black people made no difference at all, it doesn't matter, they're the ones to blame. Democrats lose elections, well, they gotta bring us in for some abuse. Gotta start whipping those niggers into line and make them understand you gotta show up. It's up to you. You need to show up. It's all your fault. The white left is no different and no better than the white right. All you gotta do is put them under pressure, threaten the apparatus of white supremacy that these liberals and Democrat Party operatives depend on, and they'll show their Klan robes like nobody's business. They'll begin sounding exactly like the Republicans, because that's what they truly believe, what they've always believed. They just want to see if you're hip to the scam, if you're willing to stand up to them. Whenever black people are making demands, the Democrats' default position is always that, well, whatever you people are talking about, it's unpopular. It's bad for our election hopes. Why, that would be political poison. We would lose elections if we did that. They go to areas that are majority black, and they say that. You're in an area where black people are the majority of the electorate, the majority of the population, and they still say, well, it's unpopular. What you people want is unpopular here among your fellow niggers. So because of that, we can't do that. That's bad. We couldn't do that. And if those talking points fail, they fall back on the old standby. Well, it's just not feasible. We ain't got the money for it. These are the standard talking points of the Democratic Party. Name one thing that black people have demanded that the Democrats have said is eminently passable. Name one thing that the black grassroots have demanded that Democrats have said is popular. Name one thing black people have demanded that Democrats have made into part of their national or even statewide campaign platform. You cannot, because they have not. That is part of the deliberate political DNA of this country. Both political parties are in agreement that if black people are demanding something, well, that's counter to the electorate. Why, that would be political poison. If black people are demanding something, well, we got to accept the fact that the people don't like that. The nation doesn't like that. They wouldn't like that. It would be bad politics. We would lose elections. It's all about making sure that anything that benefits black people is a dirty word in American politics. If you're talking about black people's concerns, well, that's the equivalent of having cursed the place out, bringing whiskey to a kindergarten's class. That's what they want to make it into. It's okay to completely and thoroughly ignore black people's interests and concerns. Why, even the Democrats say that they're not doing it. So if the Democrats, who black people say are their champions and their representatives, if these guys tell black folks, we ain't got nothing for you, what you guys want is unpopular, well, everybody should be in agreement on that. The Democrats don't even pretend that they would want to sit down and say, well, gee, how do we make your demands more palatable? What do we have to do to sell the electorate on this? What do we got to do to make sure that this wins in elections? What do we got to do to get this done? How do we make this into a winning issue? Nah, they ain't coming to us talking like that. There's no talk about how to get black interests made into national policy. You don't have any Democratic or left-leaning think tanks or organizations who are putting out PR pieces and propaganda saying that what black people want, this is a winning issue in elections. Why, people can agree on this. Democrats should be running on this. They don't do that. They'll do that for the LGBT, by the way. They'll do that for them all day long. They'll claim that these are issues that all Americans can agree on. Transgender bathrooms. But with black folks, there is no talk about passing legislation, even in a piecemeal fashion. They don't say, well, if you guys want to punish the police, we can't do it whole hog all at once, but we can do it in pieces. We'll go ahead and knock out qualified immunity here. We'll go ahead and remove paid leave, paid vacation for murderers over there. We'll go ahead and undermine the police unions here and there. We'll go ahead and we'll take the bastards apart one piece at a time. We'll give the thugs in blue death by 1,000 cuts. They never do that. They don't talk like that at all. When black people are making demands, it's nothing. And they do this to our faces right in front of us. Bernie Sanders did not go behind the scenes and say, well, reparations, that's unfeasible. Elizabeth Warren didn't say, A check for what behind the scenes? They say this in front of everybody. They want to make it clear. These black folks are making demands. We ain't doing it. You never see them do that with anybody else. They never tell illegal aliens or LGBT or these white feminists, oh, what you want is unfeasible. What? Abortion? No matter, the kid can be 5 years old and you want to make sure the kid's aborted anyway? Well, we can't do that. They never say that to anybody else, just to us. That is national policy. You see it across the line with both parties. Anything that black people demand, no matter how small it is, it's always treated as if it's politically radioactive. And this is a huge part of how they've conditioned the public that it's okay to dismiss black people's concerns. But last summer, black people showed that ignoring our demands carries consequences. So now the Democrat agenda is to show that ignoring black people's demands is no longer enough. The public must now be conditioned to attack black people's demands because black people's demands are a threat. This is the Democrats doing this. No Democrat would ever say that the LGBT activist demands for transgender bathrooms lost them an election, or that legalizing gay marriage cost them elections. They would never say that. James Carville sure won't say that. Instead, the Cajun Skeletor took his crackly wrinkled behind on PBS and said, "Let's defund the police lunacy. Let's take Abraham Lincoln's name off of schools. I mean, people see that." That, of course, is a lie. No one of any note is saying take Abraham Lincoln's name off of a school. They're saying take Confederates' names off of schools and military bases, but nobody of any note is making an issue of Abraham Lincoln, even though they would have a case to do so. So this is exaggeration on their part. They might take one or two outliers, which in many cases are GOP plants, by the way. You got a number of these GOP activists who will say this kind of stuff, and then James Carville will pick it up. There's no attempt to try to discredit that kind of agitprop. But make no mistake, although you got some Democrats who are clearly unhappy about what happened in Virginia, as I explained to you, they see a huge opportunity in this to bolster a lie, a phony narrative that they've been trying to get traction for the last few years now, when black people's demands started ramping up and we were able to force it into the national political discourse. Democrats lost in Virginia for one reason and one reason only. They didn't give black voters a reason to show up to the polls. As I explained last week, Youngkin, who won the Virginia governor's race, he got 300,000 less votes than Trump did just a year ago. So the Republican voter numbers didn't rise, they fell a lot. Republicans didn't gain any ground from a year ago, they lost ground. So clearly all these lies about critical race theory turning the electorate against Democrats in Virginia, it's a white media lie. Republicans screamed hysteria about critical race theory and they lost voters compared to a year ago. So looking at Youngkin's numbers, when you see that 300,000 less people showed up to vote for Youngkin than voted for Trump a year ago, what that shows you is Republican numbers didn't surge. There was no huge number of people who just flocked to the Republican Party, or a number of people who didn't vote in 2020 who suddenly showed up a year later. The Republicans lost support compared to a year ago. So it wasn't that the Republicans won, it was that the Democrats lost. And why did the Democrats lose? It's because Terry McAuliffe lost 800,000 votes compared to Biden a year ago. These are the cold, hard facts. You can't argue with the math. The Republicans didn't run the boards. The Democrats failed to turn out the vote. Simple as that. And why did the Democrats fail to get their voters out? 800,000 votes. That means fully 30% of the people who showed up a year ago didn't bother to show up this year. That's why the Democrats lost in Virginia. Oh, they brought in Biden. They brought in Obama. They brought in Stacey Abrams and Kamala Harris. Oh yeah, it was just a litany of their golden oldies, every bootlick and scumbag that they could find. They were sitting there wheeling them out. Their pathetic attempts to defy political gravity failed. Democrats are learning that they cannot win elections and ignore black people's interests. They're learning that Democrats cannot win elections and refuse to punish the police. They're learning that Democrats cannot win elections and put nothing tangible in black people's pockets. You do nothing to enrich black people. You don't do anything to attack white apparatuses of white supremacy. And the result is black people won't turn out to vote. Yet the white media across the board is working together with the Democrats to push the lie that, yep, it's black people's fault. Yeah, everybody just hates what black people want. That's just the way it is. You can't blame Democrats. It's America, and they're just doing what America wants. What do you mean, change America? That's only for LGBTs, don't you see? This is the fraudulent narrative the white media has been prepping for the last few years, by the way. It didn't just come up this year. They've been laying the groundwork for this for a few years now. The steady drumbeat of extremists on the left. You got these extremists, you see, these extremists. They've been pushing the line that, well, the Democrats need to crack down on the extremists. They need to track down on the extremists in their own ranks. Gee, who does that sound like? Doesn't it sound like Jefferson Beauregard Sessions III and his crony lies about black identity extremists? Yeah, any black person who is demanding an end to white supremacy and to punish white supremacy, that's extremist. And the white media, they've had the Democrats out there across the board. You had a bunch of Democrats, career scumbags and bootlicks saying, well, we got some problems, some extremists on our own side. Are they planting bombs outside of government facilities? Are they storming the Capitol? No, but they're still extremists. They've been promoting the lie that black people and their demands are a problem. And the white media has been pushing the line that they should justify Democrats running on an open platform of black people's interests being invalid and declaring openly that black people's interests are a threat to their political fortunes. So if black people's demands are threatening the Democrats' political fortunes, well, they're justified in telling black people they're going to attack anyone talking about punishing the police or tangibles just for us. That's the reason why they've put so much effort behind this. You got to make it where the Democrats can point and say, well, this is losing us elections. You're losing us elections. Why, we're a political party's job is to win elections, and you're losing us elections. It's all your fault. This phony narrative that it's black people's demands that lost them Virginia, this is just a talking point meant to be fed to the people so that they have something they can hopefully remember when it's time to say, well, this is why we gotta ignore black people's demands. Black people's demands are dangerous. Why? Look what happened in Virginia. Look what happened in Virginia. It's the white supremacist offensive to manufacture a rationale for attacking the grassroots. You demand that black people, specifically those of us who came out of slavery in this country, have our fair share of the national treasury. Why, that's wokeness. That's going to lose us elections. You demand that the police be punished. That's wokeness. That's going to lose us elections. You demand that racists and slave owners not be honored in the town square. That's wokeness. That's going to lose us elections. Geez, sounds like the Republicans now, don't it? Tell me again why you want to vote Democrat just out of curiosity. The white media has been laying the groundwork for this anti-black offensive for the last couple of years now. Make no mistake, James Carville would be blaming wokeness no matter if Terry McAuliffe won by a landslide. Don't believe me? Look what happened last year when nigga Jim Clyburn was slobbering, stop sloganizing, kill, stop sloganizing. Joe Biden had won the election, and yet he was still saying that. He lied and claimed, well, it cost us our seat in North Carolina, and we could have won a seat in North Carolina, but all these activists, stop sloganizing. He said, y'all endangering our chances of winning Senate seats in Georgia. You're going to ruin everything. You're going to ruin everything for us. The woke activist, however, didn't stop, and Democrats won both seats in Georgia. Did Clyburn sit down and shut up then? Of course not. And did anyone tell him that he should? Of course not. Because this is part of the narrative that they were trying to promote. So even when Democrats win elections, they still keep saying, wokeness, lose elections, wokeness, y'all need to stop. They say it no matter what. So all of this blaming wokeness, it's just a concerted effort, one that has nothing to do with elections and everything to do with stopping the societal changes that the grassroots are forcing upon the system. Something is happening now that was never supposed to happen in this country. The politicians are being forced to listen to black people's demands. And now we see them making it clear you can force them to listen, but you can't force them to do what we say. Make no mistake, there is no voter backlash. That's a white media lie, but there is a backlash from the white supremacist politicians and the operators of the political apparatus. Oh, the administrative arm of white supremacy, they are definitely on the march against us. And it's no coincidence that the Democrats are leading the charge. The game of pretending that the white left and white right are enemies, that little charade breaks down whenever black people begin putting pressure on white supremacy, endangering white primacy and those white privileges. Then all of a sudden the white left abandons all that phony leftist talk and they start talking exactly like the Republicans. Now, when you see them talking like this, the question becomes, why do they bother to pretend that they're not on the side of the GOP? Why do they keep up this fraudulent charade? Because that's the basis of controlled opposition. It's not the opposition who's under control. It's their job to make sure you are. The Democrats rode to power last year when the anti-police violence protests were at an all-time high. Cities were on fire nationwide. Police were under siege in their own precincts. Politicians being publicly excoriated for refusing to pledge to defund the police. And with all that going on at a fever pitch that the world had never seen for 7 months before the election, Democrats not only won the presidency, they also captured the Senate as well. Now, the Republicans were out there screaming at the top of their lungs, law and order, we stand with the thugs in blue, blue lives matter! They tried all that, every line of horse crap that they possibly could, and they all failed. Oh, they screamed it from the rooftops for months, all throughout the long, hot summer of 2020. If there ever should have been a receptive audience for crushing anyone who said defund the police, it should have been 2020. Instead, it was the people who stood against it who went down. That was just a year ago. And yet, even in the face of all that, you had Democrats saying, gotta do something about these extremists. We got extremists on the right, but also on the left. We gotta do with the ones on the left. Ooh, we gotta do something about them. They're causing problems. Here they are winning elections. Here they are with the right wing on their heels, got the bad guys on the run. And yet here they are talking about, we got to do something about these people making all of these demands. The white media and the left arm of white supremacy, the so-called Democrats, they saw what was happening, and they knew that the tide of history was surging against them. But the Democrats are an invention of white supremacy, just like the Republicans. So when they see a threat to the enforcement arm of white supremacy, they go on red alert, just like the GOP. They realized that it would be political suicide to stand against the people last year, so they waited until after the presidential election, and that's when they sent out the ranking bootlick, Nigga Jim Clyburn, to take the first step toward what was meant to be a counteroffensive against punishing the police. He didn't upbraid or excoriate the police. None of the Democrats did, you notice that? None of the Democrats pointed and said, you know what? These doggone police and these police departments, these sheriff's departments, these guys are no better than terrorists. They're a bunch of thugs. Nobody in the political establishment was saying that. Nobody was saying, well, you know what? These police unions, we got to do something about these guys. These police unions, we got to crush them. We got to stop them. These guys, they're basically trying to make sure that everybody just excuses murder. Nobody said that. None of them, not on the left or the right. Nobody was saying that. So it's clear that both parties have an open, hands-off policy when it comes to the thugs in blue. Both of them are on the same page. Neither Democrats nor Republicans are willing to criticize the police. Neither of them are willing to blame the police. Both parties are on the same page that the police are not responsible for anything they do. I told you about how Jim Crow Joe, he decided to go talk to the cops just about a month ago, and what did he say? He said that, we need to make sure that they get the equipment and the training that they need. It's a training issue. James Carville has not had a political win since 1992. You take a look at the majority of the books that idiot's written in the last 30 years, and most of his books are about Democrats losing and, we got to do something to push back. Well, here's some folks who have actually done something that's actually made some headway that idiot had never made. And now what's he saying? We got to stop this. Well, we got to stop this, y'all. We got to stop this. Of course, you won't be surprised to learn that the Cajun Skeletor, James Carville, he's married to a career lifelong Republican political strategist Mary Madeline. This is who James Carville is married to. So why is he doing all this lying? It's pretty obvious. Ideological reasons, personal reasons. As the James Carvilles and Jim Clyburns and Donna Brazils see it, they're part of the establishment. That means they see it as their responsibility to maintain the status quo, and the status quo is black oppression. The interests of the white elite are the interests of their flunkies. And where is the activism from the left who are calling them out on this? You don't see it. You might get a couple of half-sincere hoots and hollers, but nobody's pointing and saying what we're saying. Not really. There is an across-the-board effort to try to justify attacking the very grassroots who swept the Democrats to power overwhelmingly a year ago, and are telling a lie that, oh, what those people were talking about a year ago, you know, the stuff that won Democrats' elections, it's totally unpopular with Americans. Why? Well, because we said so, that's why. They know it's a lie, but what they're hoping is that if the Democrats and the white media all repeat it together enough times, hopefully people will start to believe it. This is white supremacy's attempting to hit the reset button on punishing the police. Also notice that merely demanding the police be punished, something as basic and fundamental, something as much of a no-brainer as that is, that's being painted as extremist. That's wokeism. It's extremist. You want the police should actually be punished under law? They should be punished? That's extreme. That's extreme. Now, when people are saying defund the police, you would think that if Democrats thought that that was so extremist, at the very least their natural reaction would be to automatically call for something short of that. Like, say, passing laws to make it easier to punish the police. The end of qualified immunity. No more paid vacation for murderers. Putting an end to departments allowing killer cops to transfer from one department to the next when it's obvious they ought to be fired or prosecuted. All of those things would address what the people want. But that's the problem. The Democrats are determined to thwart the will of the people. In Minneapolis, you had that ballot initiative talking about defund the police. Now, of course, if you have absolutely no apparatus whatsoever to address emergency calls or law breaking, of course, people are going to be like, well, we're fine with defunding the police, but what is the organized apparatus that's going to be in place to replace them? As Stephen Kotkin put it, after a revolution, it's not the ideas that carry over, it's the institutions. So, of course, they put up something that happens to be a bit of a stretch. You're going to go ahead and get rid of whatever thugs and blue organization is there now. You have to have an organization in place ready to go to replace them so that there's a smooth transition. But, of course, they already knew that. That was the entire point. So they could say, see, nobody wants to defund the police. Now, on the other hand, why didn't they have ballot initiatives saying we're going to put on the books the end of qualified immunity? Let's have a vote about that. Let's have a vote about putting an end to paid vacation for murderers. Cops don't get to transfer from department anymore. And the public gets to see exactly what their service records are. Why wasn't that on the ballot? Democrats weren't doing that because this is all about manufacturing a phony narrative that, oh, well, all that stuff you saw last year, well, the status quo is coming back. People are coming back to their senses. They're recognizing it for the extremist lunacy that it was. Why? You even have career Democratic butt kissers like James Carville who's saying that. Well, see, this is people coming back to the center, you see. Ain't nothing centrist about this. This is far right supremacist. So don't let anybody tell you any differently. This is not about winning elections. It's about preserving the complete apparatus of white supremacy. So they have to demonize and con people into thinking that the same movement that demonstrated such massive support only a year ago is suddenly hated by the nation. This is white media trying to dictate to people what they think. We're going to tell you what you believe. Don't believe your lying eyes. Don't use your brain. Just swallow whatever we tell you. You know, whenever Republicans lose elections, they never blame their base. They always blame the candidate. Or they blame Democrats and claim some sort of campaign tricks, voter fraud, etc. But the Republicans, they never blame their base. They never say that, well, too many of our voters, these people are just so far off the deep end, and oh, there's all these people out here. This stuff that these Republican voters want, that these rubes want, oh God, these guys, they're going to kill us. All of this lunacy that they're giving into. They never blame their base for their political losses. So their voters are never in the wrong, and their political ideology is never wrong. They do exactly the opposite. Rather than blame their base or rather than blame the campaign platform, they do just like the communists did in the Soviet Union. They say, well, our guy wasn't right-wing enough. We didn't run conservative enough. We weren't extremist enough. They never say that their party platform is unpopular or that their base, the extremists in their party, have taken over. They never do that. Neither the right wing nor the racists who they represent ever get blamed. That is an article of faith for the Republican Party. The party's not wrong and the voters never get blamed, no matter how clearly bigoted and racist and no matter how unhinged they clearly are. No one says that ultra-nationalist rhetoric is what cost Republicans control of the Senate last year. None of them says that that's what cost them the White House either. And Republicans, of course, represent the establishment. They represent the interests of the in crowd. Now, let's take a look at the group on the other hand, who's supposed to be representing the interests of the disenfranchised and the marginalized, otherwise these guys known as controlled opposition. Democrats always blame black people whenever they lose. Doesn't matter if it's Proposition 8 in California, which there are not enough black folks in California to have saved Proposition 8. We can thank Democrats for sitting on their hands and allowing black people to be gentrified out of the state, or in the case of Nancy Pelosi, doing everything that they could to help get rid of black folks in the state. How come there ain't enough black folks to help Democrats in California? Because they ethnically cleanse them all. And of course, whenever Democrats lose a midterms or they lose this or that gubernatorial race, they always make sure to keep up the steady drumbeat of, oh, if there was a big election that Democrats were hoping to win, where was the black vote at? I thought Democrats were focusing on Latinos and Asians. I thought that the LGBT vote had all this growing clout. Yeah, but none of those groups are large enough or politically solidified enough to actually hand Democrats an election. Latinos, half of them want to vote Republican. 1/3 of them might want to vote Democrat as long as they get to be a party boss or they get themselves some sort of cushy job with the Democrat National Committee. And about 1/3 of them, as far as they're concerned, who cares? So that's a voting bloc that's completely fractured. But if they do break, they're going to break in favor of the Republicans, as we saw in Virginia. And with the Asians, that's even worse for the Democrats. You take a look at those northern suburbs of Virginia, especially in the DMV area around D.C. That's where the Asians have largely clustered at in Virginia. And they broke for the Republicans. And yet you got the Democrats, they're trying to figure out, how do we get some Latino votes? How do we get some Asian votes? How do we get some, as Rahm Emanuel put it, Biden Republicans? Read casual racists, those white moderates, that mythical unicorn that they keep chasing. Anything but black people. They're making it very clear. We're trying to appeal to everybody but black people. And then as soon as they lose an election, it's those damn niggers' fault. If you guys had shown up. Oh, but I thought they didn't need black folks. They were too busy trying to get the votes from illegal aliens or from Latinos or from Asians or LGBT votes or casual racist votes. You're not prioritizing black folks, so why do you blame black people when you lose? It's a means of psychological abuse for black people. When they lose, we're supposed to be living in fear that they're going to be blaming us and attacking us. It's you niggers' fault. Okay, well, what are you going to do about it? Please tell me, what's the punishment going to be for black people losing you an election? If black people thwarted you an election, what you going to do about it? I say, let's lean into it. Damn right we cost you an election. Yeah, we did it. Now what you going to do about it? Yeah, we see you white supremacist pieces of trash over there grinding your teeth, and what you going to do about it? Yes, we deliberately defied you and we denied you political office. We took political power out of your hands. Now what you going to do about it? The Democrats lost because they did not deserve to win. They failed to galvanize the voters who could have and who in the past did hand them the election. It's that black base who they claim are making too many demands. They never claim that the country is on the side of black demands. Doesn't matter what black people demand. They never say, oh, America's in favor of this. So that being the case, fine then. If America's not in favor of it, according to you, we ain't in favor of you being in charge. We want people who make it clear, hey, the country needs to get with this, like it or not. And by the way, Carville the Crank isn't alone. Bill Maher is still busy auditioning for a job on Fox News, and he's repeating his shop-worn talking points. You see, that's the thing about a lot of these angry white males who claim to be comedians. And you notice the pattern. Whenever you got some white male who's running around and calling himself a comedian, notice that his jokes are always of an anti-black slant. Oh yeah, these guys, doesn't matter what political persuasion they claim to be, they always go drawing from that well frequently. Now, these clowns all have access to the exact same information that I just gave you. Van Jones certainly did. By the way, I'm surprised that he wasn't boo-hooing and singing the blues last Tuesday. I mean, for God's sake, that's his favorite little shtick that he likes to do. But they got access to the same numbers, and not one of them said, gee, how come all of those voters didn't show up? Instead, they try to claim that Republicans gained support. The hell they did. They gained no support. They lost support because all of them are looking and going, we got to stop this rising tide of black empowerment that's threatening to sweep us away. They're all on the same page about that. And while we all recognize Bill Maher for the irrelevant bigot that he is, it doesn't change the fact that you've got these guys working together in concert who are trying to solidify support against us. That's what he's attempting to do. This week, when Maher wasn't giving the same old feeble defenses of how black people are costing Democrats elections and there's all the stuff that these people are going, that's just unpopular with the country, which is code for unpopular with him. He also decided that he was going to play on the old generation gap thing. There's another right-wing trope that he was playing to. Bill Maher, like the rest of the baby boomers, they realize that their page in history has already been written, and you now have three generations, Generation X, Millennials, and Gen Z, who are in agreement that they, the baby boomers, betrayed their own progeny. So the baby boomers' page in history will be as reprehensible as were their actions. So no wonder the most selfish, most excessive, least considerate generation in human history can't defend their behavior, so instead they've been reduced to the last refuge of every moral reprobate to falsely claim that the people calling them out, their own children no less, are no better than they are. Well, Bill Maher, it wasn't the Zoomers who squandered the most robust economy in human history and had nothing to show for it. The baby boomers did that. It wasn't millennials who made excuses for police violence and who ran interference for the thugs with badges and who answer calls for justice with "Stop sloganizing." It's the baby boomers who did that. It wasn't Generation X who chased interracial sexual access under the feeble guise of integration and then tried to make their horny toad behavior sound moral with all this insincere rhetoric about being colorblind. Gen X didn't do that. The baby boomers did. Gen X didn't sit on their hands and allow pork chop preachers and pulpit pimps to become the voice of the community. The baby boomers did that. Generation X, Millennials, and Gen Z are at least fighting, at least making it a point to call out the problems, making issues out of them, and that's what failures like Bill Maher hate. They look at the young who are fighting, and it reminds him that he didn't do anything. While Bill Maher was busy in the 70s, 80s, and 90s taking drugs and chasing gutter sex with hood rats back in the day, he didn't give a damn about any of the things that young people are in the streets fighting for. He sees the mountain of negligence that his generation presided over and created and allowed to fester. He sees three generations now trying to clean up the mess, and he feels some kind of way about it. He feels guilty. That's guilt on that bastard's part when he calls himself whining about the young people in the streets. That's Bill Maher showing his guilt. 'Cause now the bastard's old. And like a lot of old folks, when they see that the Grim Reaper's tapping them on the shoulder and they can see their open grave in front of them, they realize that they got far more days behind them than in front of them. What they want before they take their final breath is to get some validation. They want to be validated by the young. They want the children to give them validation that all of their whoring and getting high was somehow a good thing. And the young people are telling them, no, it was not a good thing. It's not all right. And you're not all right for doing it. He knows that the young people are telling the truth. And that's why he's lashing out. And he's not alone. This half-baked attempt to rewrite the history books by the very people who made the mess in the first place proves that every critical thing said about the baby boomers was right. The baby boomers tried to live by the motto, live fast, die young, and leave a good-looking corpse. Problem is, they didn't die young. In fact, they mostly made it to old age. And the corpses that are being left are largely their own children. They all figured that they would long have been in their graves by now, and that it wouldn't matter what future generations said because they wouldn't be alive to hear it. But as with everything else, the baby boomers were dead wrong. I'm not saying that because baby boomers made such a god-awful mess that we are absolved of the responsibility to clean it up. It's just a simple fact of life that a lot of people make messes that other people have to try to rectify. It's a crappy deal they stuck us with, but we owe it to ourselves to leave a better world than we found, especially for the next generation of black children. No one else is trying to give them a chance, so we must. But what I'm also saying is that we owe it to ourselves to never forget who it was who made the mess in the first place. This across-the-board white media jihad to try to take recent elections and to take the history of the last 60 years and to try to blame it on young people who are in the streets, you notice how it's all of a kind. It's these young people making problems. These young people, these guys are a threat. They're a problem. Oh, you guys aren't as valorous and you're not as virtuous as you try to make yourselves out to be. I have not seen any young people who have been running around saying that we should be put up for sainthood, or running around saying, gee, when's the country going to give us a national day in our honor? The only thing the young people have said is what they've always said, which is, we see these problems, what the hell were you doing while this stuff was getting worse? Well, in the case of the Jim Clyburns, they were looking for a white woman to snuggle up with, and in the case of Bill Maher, he was looking for a black woman to snuggle up with. And both of them were looking for some white-moneyed interest, be it in the case of nigga Jim Clyburn, looking for a white corporation in the energy sector, or in the case of Bill Maher, looking for some white media corporation to put them on the white corporate teat so that they could go ahead and turn around later on and blame the people who they made excuses for attacking. The very people who Jim Clyburn holds his little phony fish fries for. And the very black people who might have thought that Bill Maher was ever funny, you see what they're doing now when they think that, well, I won't be alive much longer anyway, so I can go ahead and tell you fools what I always thought of you. The black grassroots are the target. We are squarely in the crosshairs. They're making that abundantly clear. And what we have to also make abundantly clear is no amount of kvetching and phony outrage on their part, no amount of trying to carpet bomb us with demonization and hate is going to deter us. We're not looking for the white media to actually speak the truth. We know that they happen to be the mouth of lies. We know that. We are going to double and redouble our efforts. We know what the truth is. We stand on the truth. We speak the truth because we are the truth. This is the lesson that should have been taken away from the phony baloney reparations hearing that took place in the House of Representatives a couple of years back. Yeah, they brought in their little coterie of bootlicks, all of them saying the same thing. Reparations ain't got to be money. Whatever reparations is, whatever form it takes, it doesn't need to be money. The black grassroots got together and said, oh, no, that ain't going to be it. Reparations means cut the check. And we stood on that. It's not a matter of whether or not the racist at MSNBC or over at the Caucasian Nazi Network are saying what we're saying. What matters is what we are saying to one another. That's what matters. We are not concerned about any veiled threats from the Cajun Skeletor, James Carville, or any other Democratic bootlick shill. Because what the hell are they going to do to us that they haven't been doing all along? What this is a psychological fake-out. What they're trying to figure out is if at this late date there's still any dumb Negroes gullible enough, silly enough to think that all it takes is some white supremacists on the left to wag their finger at us or to give us the side eye and we're supposed to immediately, like a whipped dog, go, sorry, massa. I'm sorry that I offended you, massa. That's what they're attempting to see. And they're going to have some dumb Negroes out there who are trying to help them sell it, like Van Jones, lying to you. They're not going to be telling you what the actual numbers are. They're going to be giving you a spin that is as phony as a $3 bill. This is not about persuasion. It never has been. This is about force. It's about political will. When racist Mike Bloomberg jumped into the presidential race last year, the white media blatantly lied for him, and they falsely claimed that stop and frisk had no impact on his popularity with black people. Why, black folks, they weren't bothered by stop and frisk at all. It seems to not be affecting Bloomberg's support with black folks. That's what the white media claimed. They ran lying puff pieces, which had the exact same usual suspects, the same dependable cherry-picked black bootlicks, who the white media and the Democrats have cultivated to always make excuses for the white left's racism. The Democrats can always depend on these clowns who are on the payroll. And these idiots would say, well, I'm black. I would not lie about racism. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, hand me my envelope. The white media told themselves that they had gotten away with something. Hey, we ran these lying pieces saying that stop and frisk wasn't a problem with black voters, and they'll go for it. At the very least, we'll get away with black folks turning out for the election. They'll support Bloomberg, and by extension, they will be certifying that stop and frisk is okay with black people because they supported the man who was the mascot, the patron saint of stop and frisk. And then Bloomberg, who knew that he couldn't hold any rallies where black people might attend in New York, he knew better than to do that. Instead, what Bloomberg did was he told his white media buddies, we're going way down south to Alabama. We're not holding anything in New York City now. We're going to go down to Alabama, and there's some black folks down there, and we're going to use them as a backdrop for my little PR stunt. Oh yeah, he went down so far south that if he had gone any farther south, he'd have been in the Gulf of Mexico. Bloomberg, who, by the way, owns a white media outlet himself, so when we talk about the white media, that includes Bloomberg, he just knew that he had gone so far south that finally, there wouldn't be any New York activists down in Alabama, would there? Probably not. But what he didn't know was that the black media had already beaten him to Alabama. So when he had that pork chop preacher down there at Brown Chapel AME Church say, yeah, Massa, you can use my congregation as a backdrop for your little photo op, he thought that he was going to sell the lie that stop and frisk was a victimless crime and the black community had forgiven him because we're all a bunch of dupes. And then that black congregation stood up in front of the white media, in front of the world, and they turned their backs on Bloomberg. The very next day, the same white media who had been lying and saying that stop and frisk wasn't hurting Bloomberg with black voters, they were then singing the exact opposite song. They said, oops, looks like them niggers, they're still bitter about stop and frisk. They gave a one-and-done admission that black people had handed Bloomberg a humiliating pink slip from the election. He was sent out from the election in humiliating fashion by the same black folks he had spent years attacking and making excuses and justifying the killing of black people. Those same black folks, not even in New York, just to show that Bloomberg is radioactive and toxic all over the country. Black voters made it clear he's never going to become president. Black people have decided that he won't be. And I told you that black empowerment would not come into its own until we demonstrated that we could punish white people. White people who harm black folks, until we showed that we could punish them, that there were consequences for harming us, and that we could inflict them on the dominant society. Until we did that, we would not have come into our own. Bloomberg was a stark reminder to them. Those black grassroots, they can touch you. They can crush your presidential hopes. So the white media, they gave a one-day, one-and-done admission. Oops, stop and frisk bit Bloomberg in the behind. It was black folks who did it to him. And then after that, they were like, we're not talking about it again, so don't ask about it. We're not going to mention it again. Well, the same thing is happening here with all of this phony outrage about wokeness and critical race theory and all that. They're doing the exact same gaslighting all over again. The white media and these Democrats, they know that they're lying, but what they don't know is whether or not we're falling for it. Has their propaganda had any effect on us is what they're trying to figure out. Has it demoralized us? Has it confused us? Has it made us think that maybe we need to soften what we're doing and we need to try to make ourselves more appealing and more satisfactory to them? That's what they're trying to find out. They're willing to roll the dice on this one. And the reason why is because we have proven on too many occasions that we'll have a head full of steam for a hot minute, but that we lose interest very quickly. Too many of us have a prime time TV mentality. We're only interested in fighting white supremacy until the next commercial break, or until it goes on, the fight goes on a little bit too long. We have a well-established track record of abandoning the fight. This is why bootlicking traitors like Clyburn and career racists like James Carville feel like they can talk grimy about us and openly attack our interests. That's why they feel like they can talk trash about us. They can talk about us like dogs to our face and tell, stop sloganizing. You know, this stupidity, this lunacy. Y'all niggas talking about how you don't want the police killing you. That's lunacy. As they see it, hey, in a month or two, these black folks, they'll have forgotten about it anyway, because they always do. All we gotta do is give oh, well, I didn't mean it like that, and these Negroes, they'll be dumb enough to say, okay, we'll hear what you gotta say, and we'll show up on election day, too. All Clyburn thinks he has to do is to have another fish fry, some free food, and all is forgiven. Hell, more than forgiven, all will be forgotten. That's what he thinks is gonna happen. Well, the black grassroots don't forget. We've got a long memory, too. So let's add determination to that memory, family, and our resources. Because once we do that, we're going to be in a position to show that we have a long memory and an even longer reach, too. You can ask Mike Bloomberg about that one. And when the black grassroots starts really flexing our muscles and flexing them on the people who have been attacking us and undermining us, it won't matter what lies the white media tells then.